Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Opportunity Podcast. And today I have a guest named Sean Markey from Rank Theory. He has a whole newsletter devoted to expired domains, what to look for when you're buying an expired domain. And in this episode, we talk deeply about why you should do this anyways. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we explain it a bit more in the show. But basically, what you're doing is buying a website that someone used to own that had some power as an SEO website, and you are using that to either build your main website on, or you are sending those links that website is built, the content on that website, to your main niche website or your main authority website, whatever you're trying to build. So Sean has done a lot of cool stuff in this space, and he has sold some pretty big websites. One that he can't mention the actual price, but he has sold, let's say, comfortably multiple six figures in this space, and like based off his CBD site that we talk about, probably a lot more than that. So anyways, this is a great episode where we really dive into the technical weeds. So if that's something you love, then you're probably going to enjoy this podcast. And of course, if you enjoy it, help out my self-esteem by leaving me an extremely over-exaggerating positive review. I'll share it on the next podcast I do. See you on the other side. Bye. All right. I am with Sean Markey. Welcome to the opportunity, my friend. You sent me an email just literally a few days ago telling me about you sold a website with us a while ago. And we actually have met. I believe it was in Vegas, right?
Yeah, MicroConf. I think 2018.
Yes. That was a wonderful conference. We sponsored that conference and we showed up there with all the swag bags, and then they canceled our sponsorship right then and there. And I had to carry all this swag for like a block through the Vegas Strip. I actually got stopped by a police officer asking me what is in the bag. And I had a friend who was helping me with like carrying all the boxes. And he was like, yeah, I guess this does look pretty suspicious, huh? And the cop was like, yes, it looks super suspicious.
Wait, why did they
Like,
cancel your sponsorship? Or is
it's a
that
good
just like a whole
question.
thing?
It was like a whole backroom deal kind of thing. I think a competitor came in and like convinced them to let them be there and not us. So we ended up having to throw our own party where we basically hosted like a random bar off of the conference hotel, and that's how we got rid of our swag. It was a hell of a night to get rid of swag. But of
Drama.
course, our competitors showed up to have beers with us to rub the salt into the wound.
Nice.
Yeah, it was classy, class act. Anyhow, it's cool talking to you again. It's been, God, that must have been like 4, maybe even 5 years ago at this point. So
Yep.
tell me what you've been up to. And for our audience who don't know you, tell us, what do you do? Well, tell us about your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, so I started doing SEO in 2011. I think it's probably because I read the 4 Hour Work Week and went down that rabbit hole like everyone else. Super cliche. And yeah, just started getting into it. I was a special ed teacher at a high school. So there seems to be several different like groups of people that get into entrepreneurship, and one common one I've heard is like former teacher, so I fall into that bucket. Yeah, I started doing SEO, trying to build websites. Didn't have a lot of success. Ended up working for Travis Jameson and Smash Digital, it's called now, working doing SEO there. I left briefly at the end of 2018 and I worked at Siege Media for a few weeks, but that wasn't a good culture fit, I guess. I'm just
Yeah, that's a pretty big
it,
company in comparison to the type of companies we're used to and the type of lifestyle Travis is known for
yeah.
building.
Yeah, and that was the biggest issue. I mean, Siege Media, they know what they're doing. Like, it wasn't anything bad. It's just like, oh, I don't know. I don't work well in like a big, huge team, like just one cog in a huge team with all, with an HR department. I don't know. So I stopped working there just as an affiliate site I was building started to take off. It was ranking in the top 3 spots for best CBD oil back in early 2019 ish. So that went really well for me. I worked with that site for another 3 or 4 months, just killing it on that keyword, and ended up selling that site for an amount that I can't talk about to a company that I can't talk about. But it was a huge, big exit. And yeah, so I got really kind of involved in the cannabis space. After that exit, I built out a cannabis seed affiliate site and a grow room, grow tent, grow light site. And those all got destroyed at the end of 2020 in that December update. it was bad. I lost like 97% of my traffic. And so ever since then, I just been kind of looking for what to do next. I sold a couple more sites. I sold some domain names. I'm into domains. And now I'm doing I'm more doing SEO consulting for people. And I write an SEO newsletter. That's kind of my thing.
I feel like there is not any possibility of being a long-term successful SEO till there's one update that wipes away 90% of your traffic.
Yeah.
That's like you
It's
made it. You did it. You're an SEO now.
yeah, I guess it's a nice scar to have, but man, it was not a great time.
Feeling the cutting blades of the algorithm. Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
you. I've been there before. I mean, most of our traffic is SEO at EF. Probably, I want to say like 85% of the traffic we get. So I'm right with you on that. I feel the pains of the algorithm. So you sold a pretty big CBD oil site, but you've also sold like a pretty moderately big size affiliate site with us as well. The CBD oil one, I don't believe was with us. I'm assuming that was a private deal, right?
Yeah, it's a private deal. It wasn't a good fit because like only a couple pages were like the money pages and it was
Yeah,
only like I mean it was really young. I just hit it just right. And so it wasn't, a traditionally sellable site.
yeah,
Um
100%
and
strategic
to
acquisition type
actually
of stuff.
correct, I bought a site from EF
Oh, you
in
that's right. You
2019.
bought one from us. Look at me being a stellar customer service. So you bought a site. I want to go into that. But before we do, perhaps we could talk a little bit about some of your expertise in the SEO world. I find my friends in the SEO world, they tend to specialize into certain silos of it. And you seem to be really into the whole expired domains, drop domains, all that kind of stuff. So
Yep.
what is it about expired domains that fascinates you so much? And I'm assuming what you're going to answer is a similar reason why you bought the site from us. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit different, but I imagine there's some
Yeah.
crossover there.
Yeah. So from the first couple months I started to be into entrepreneurship and try and buy sites, just kind of obsessed with domain names. Um, like trying to just find the best one. Like when you're starting out, you're like, damn, why is diamond.com registered? Like I just had an idea for that domain. Like how could someone have grabbed it already? I think everyone goes through that kind of process initially, but yeah, it just seemed like almost like panning for gold, like trying to find a domain that was like the perfect brand and really conveyed the idea and was valuable on its own. So like even when I wasn't doing anything with them relating to SEO, I just was really focused on domain names. And so as I started to look at the drop lists every day, like what domains are going to auction, I started to, and I was even late to the party on this, but I started to see, oh, these domains are dropping. They have these huge link profiles. Like that seems valuable. And so I started buying those instead of just domains that I thought would be valuable to resell. And just started building on those, started doing stupid experiments like trying to 301 one to the other, and there wasn't really, this is back in 2017 maybe. At least I didn't come across a lot of info like here's how you do it, here's what not to do. So I did a lot of it and I made a lot of stupid mistakes, and I had a lot of big successes. The site I sold was an expired domain. Prior to it taking off, I had 301 another domain that I had bought to that one, and that really made it go up. So I just kind of stumbled into it, and it's something I did a lot of.
I like that it wasn't a pure SEO answer. I wasn't expecting that. I find a lot of SEOs, they don't think about the other aspects of marketing outside of like, they're always just thinking about ranking in Google. But once
Hmm.
it's ranked, then there's just, go on to the next site. But you were buying these for the actual branding purposes, which I think is smart. And you kind of stumbling into the 301 world is quite funny because I also discovered like the power about like individual 301 expired domain to another website probably around the same time. I had a friend, he built a business, built a content website, affiliate, AdSense, all that good stuff. I think it was within 2 years, he ended up selling it with us for a little bit over $300,000, which at the time I was
Nice.
thinking like, this is like incredibly fast. And I found out it was the 301. But back then the SEO was like, keep it hush. Don't tell anyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're doing this, you bought these sites. Tell me a bit about why or like what makes a good expired domain. So you went from buying branding, which is very subjective in terms of what makes a good brand or not. But when it comes to expired domains where you're looking at actual SEO metrics, are there certain types of metrics you're looking for before you'll go and, pay money for it?
Yep. And a lot of people have a slightly different variation on this answer. So it's kind of like SEO where people have different subjective experiences. And so their answer to this question changes based on that. But for me, the most important things are, is it indexed? Because if not, like, whatever, like start your own site from scratch. You might as well. In my opinion, that's something people don't agree on. And then if it's indexed, is it ranking for anything still? And a lot of really powerful expired domains will be, even through the like 45-day, process where it's expiring and it's going to pending delete. A really strong domain with a strong backlink profile will still rank for some keywords. And so that's something that I looked at. And it made the pool of possible acquisitions smaller because a lot of sites don't hold their rankings through that expiration
Yep.
process. So is it indexed? Is it ranking for things? And then, the next step up is what's it ranking for? Is it niche relevant to what I am doing? So I did a lot of cannabis CBD stuff, like I've mentioned. So is it ranking for any stupid keyword? Doesn't matter how irrelevant, or it doesn't matter if it's on page 7. Like just the fact that it's there still was a good sign.
Yeah, there's
And
something that
then,
Google loves about this website,
yeah,
even though
yeah,
now
it's
it's a
like,
post.
yeah, if something is super penalized or it's just not well loved, it won't reach that, you know, particular layer. And then the last thing is, are the backlinks relevant to the niche? Or are they huge, MSNBC.com or CNN or whatever kind of links? That's what I'm looking for.
When
And
you're
then
looking,
finally, if
oh,
it's a
yeah,
good
sorry.
brand name on top of that, that's like the cherry.
Yeah, I've gone through many expired domain websites like archives and directories, drop lists, and like that's actually pretty hard to find. Out of all the criteria, finding a good branded domain, in my experience, is
Yeah.
the hardest part.
Yep,
um,
you see a lot of names on marketplaces that people have rebuilt, and it's like, Ruth's dash diner dash boulder.net. And it has a great backlink profile, but this is crap brand.
makes Coca Cola.
I would never build on a site like that if I could help it.
Right. So when it comes to the indexing, so you're looking that it's already ranking for something, even though it's expired. Are you looking for it on a certain page, like page one, page two, or it doesn't really matter as long as it's just
No,
indexed?
yeah, it doesn't matter. Even if it's page 7, it's something super long tail or super geographic. Like it's just a really good sign.
If there's a domain that you wanted to buy that had a really good backlink profile, but a very bad branding issue, like what we just mentioned, couldn't you buy that and just start 301ing it to another website that has a better brand? Have you ever done that?
Yes, I've done that a bunch, and
I take
that
it you like
works.
doing that.
Yeah, I mean, doing it the right way, kind of the like making it pay off for you is hard because you have to really build it out as its own brand and then 301 it. If you just 301
Hmm,
it right when you take ownership, you're just sort of throwing it in the trash. It doesn't do anything for you. But if you take it and you build it out and Google recognizes it as, its own entity, and it starts ranking for all these keywords because you put really good content on there, and it's like, all right, this is a valuable thing, and then you 301 it to your good brand or your main brand, that's
I see.
that's how I'd say to do it. Yeah. That's how I've
No,
done
that's
it.
smart. I hadn't actually thought of it in that way. So my friend who did expired domains, it technically wasn't expired domains. And this kind of leads into my next question. So the way he did it was he would go to page 2, page 3, sometimes even page 5 and up on Google, searching for hobbyist blogs in the niche that have kind of just like given up on blogging, and he would just pay
Hmm.
them, between 200. I think his biggest one, like $200, was kind of on the low side for it. And then I think his biggest one was like $10,000. But the amount of content and backlinks he got was huge. And these are already live sites, so they were already, quote unquote brands that you get 301, right? So that leads me into another part of this aspect. When you're buying expired domains, is there a certain like, okay, this has been expired for a year, so I'm not going to touch it, versus like I need to buy it like the day of it expiring? Is there any time in this?
Yeah, I think this is also a subject where some people might disagree, but I won't acquire a domain for its SEO value if it's been dead for a while, because I don't feel like that value carries through, or if you resurrect it, it'll take a lot of work to get that back if it does. So it's kind of like maybe it's not worth it.
Bigger
Um,
gamble.
I bought most of my names like from GoDaddy auctions. That's the main spot. So they're going through the expiring process. They don't fully drop out of the registry. Yeah, that's how I play it.
What time scale is too long for you? Like 6 months, a year, something like that?
Eventually, if a site is out for that long, it's going to get de-indexed, and then that just bumps it into the names that I'm not going to touch. So there's not really a set scale. I'll be like, oh, this is 1 day past 6 months, so I'm not interested. It's like,
It's
oh,
out.
this isn't indexed anymore.
Cut this
Yeah,
domain.
yeah. It just comes back to the indexation. Is it indexed or not?
Gotcha. So you use indexation as almost the life cycle of what juice is left in the domain then. If it's
Mhm.
indexed, it's probably still good to go.
Right. And there's cases like some Otis domains, or if you're picking up a domain privately, like where they've expired or they've dropped or whatever, and someone puts up like a landing page like, hey, this name is for sale, then that page indexes. And so that's kind of in between, like, all right, it's indexed, but it's not the site it used to be that's indexed. It's this new sales page that's indexed. However, it's indexed. So that's a good sign. So that's kind of like in the middle.
So I want to talk about the different marketplaces like Otis. You also mentioned GoDaddy, but before I do, I want to sidestep a little bit into the business you bought from us. When I said I thought the answers might overlap, is because one, buying a domain that's making money, that is brandable, like that has a lot of SEO power in of itself. But walk me through the process of someone with your experience in SEO decided to buy that business. Like, what was going through your head as you bought it? And maybe describe what it was and how big it is if you're comfortable with that.
Sure, this is not the answer you're looking for, but basically, I sold my main affiliate site for just a stupid amount of money, and I had a lot of money to spend. And I was like, I'll just do this again. Like, this went really well,
This is
so I'll
going to
do
be
more of
easy.
that. Yeah. So it's like a Frankenstein's monster of a site. Like, the brand was great. I took an expired domain. It was like a DR65, and I built a site on that. Everything fresh. But what that domain didn't have was the relevancy piece. So it was really strong. It had some great backlinks, but it was in like a generic review space. It was like a Yelp kind of thing.
Mm.
And so I was looking for a site to buy that was kind of in the cannabis industry, because I wanted to like acquire relevancy, basically. So the fact that the site that I bought was making money was more annoying than anything, because I wasn't going to keep it. It just made it really expensive.
So you
Um,
bought it, you bought the business from us as basically as part of a very extreme premium domain purchase.
Yeah, essentially. Like, it was a live site, so that's great. It was ranking for a bunch of keywords in the same niche, so that was good. It was making money, so that made it expensive because I was buying it for a multiple of what it was doing.
Right, yeah. Thank
And
you for purchasing
yeah,
it. Appreciate it.
yeah, sure. And it was an expired domain itself that somebody had gotten and rebuilt into a different niche and then had some success with that. It was definitely on the lower end of what you guys offer, and it was like, I
Right.
think, the first CBD site you guys let in to the marketplace, because before that you weren't touching that space. So
We're
that's
still pretty
essentially
hands
why I
off
bought
on
it.
it, to be honest. It's very rare we allow one through.
Yeah. But this one it was solid. It was low five-figure sale, and I just took it and put all the content onto the old review site and 301'd everything over, and then I ran that site for maybe 4 or 5 months before I acquired that by like main brand that I was building.
And then you took the site that was didn't have that much relevancy that you threw this other website backlinks into, and you backlinked that website to the actual website you wanted to build with the proper brand and everything.
Right. So that's what I said. It's like a stapled together person, like just a little piece of this, like just 301'd it down the chain to my main brand, and then
It's
I
almost like an
built on
SEO
that.
silo of domains. I love it. It's very SEO-y.
Yeah, and it went well. Like that was successful from probably the beginning of 2020 through the end of 2020 when that core update happened.
Oh, was this the website that got crushed with the
Hmm.
December update?
Yep.
Ah, were
But
you
it
able to
wasn't
recover it?
because of the 301ing stuff,
Yeah,
just to be
yeah,
clear.
right. Were you able
It
to recover it, or is it just like totally destroyed?
Not really. I didn't recover it for that, but I did. So that was December 2020. In like February, I bought another cannabis site that was focused on the business side of cannabis because I found that interesting. And so I acquired that, and I basically got rid of all the content that was on this site by either just killing the pages or 301ing them off to smaller affiliate sites that are more focused on a particular sub niche of cannabis. So it was nuts. I mean, there's 301s going everywhere, every which way. And then I put all this content on, I redirected that domain over, and then I tried to do like a cannabis business play, but it didn't really work. I don't think my heart was in it. It just
Yeah,
became
that's
tedious. I was
a
like,
actually a
oh,
pretty rough business if you didn't get in early on. I have a few friends who do amazingly well in it, but nowadays when my friends try to get into it, it's tough. Like my friends who are doing well today, they got started back in was like probably 2016 almost. I'm from
mm,
Alaska, so weed has been legal for off and on for like decades. So they had a very
right.
big head start. The
Nice.
infrastructure was already mysteriously already there. Oh yeah. Well, cool, man. So you bought that site, you got it, you did your Frankenstein 301, all that kind of stuff. Like this seems to be like kind of your main thing. Is this 301 expired domains? Is that your primary focus? Or are you doing all the other kitchen sink SEO stuff like building your own backlinks, writing content, all that kind of stuff?
It's been my main link building method for sure. Um, I'm kind of lazy, to be honest. Like I can't do something if I don't super love it, which, it's hard for me to suck it up and do that. I'd be a lot more successful if that was the case. I'd start a site on whatever niche and just build it all the way out, but I can't if I don't care about it. And that's kind of what happened with that business cannabis site. It's like, ugh, I do not want to write about cannabis loans or whatever, you know. So I just didn't
Sounds like you need to change your
engage with
passion,
it.
Sean. Get back in cannabis payday loans where the true
I
heart
can
lives.
I can only do what I care about. So
No, I hear you,
yeah,
man. I remember freelance writing this long before EF. I gritted my teeth through the pain of it all, but I probably wrote like over 100, maybe even 200, closing in on 200 articles about plumbing in Ohio and roofing in Perth, Australia for local SEO agencies. So I feel you on that. Trust me.
yeah.
Those
So
days are rough.
for sure. And so to go back to your original question, like I don't really do a lot of link building. It's just 301ing stuff. I've got some contractors I've worked with since 2019 to do writing, especially in the cannabis space. So I don't do a lot of it myself, but I do like the high level stuff. Like these are the keywords we should be hitting. This is how the content should be optimized and interlinked and blah blah blah. So
Also, to your other point there, I'm also with you on the laziness. I think the best marketers are actually lazy because you figure out how to do things more effectively. And
mhm,
honestly, buying an expired domain, especially if it already has like relevant content and has all the backlinks that you can use, like massive shortcut as far as SEO goes. Like, yeah, you got to get rid
yeah,
of some content, like you mentioned, that might not be relevant. Like, if you're buying a hobbyist blogs, like my friend, he got rid of pictures of, like the previous owner with their dog. It was just like a
right,
random blog where it was like updating a picture of my dog, stuff
yep,
like that. But it is a massive shortcut. Like, you look at the grand scheme of all the backlinks and content you get, and you aggregate what that would have cost if you went to like a content mill on the cheaper side even, and maybe even a backlink farm of some sort, and those costs would be atrociously higher than just acquiring the domain like what you're doing. So I'm with
hmm
you on that as well. Let's get into actually buying this stuff. So you mentioned most of the domains you're buying is from GoDaddy, but give us a taste of the landscape of what's out there. If someone's listening right now, and they have some experience with SEO, which I do recommend. If you're brand new to this, maybe like brand new to SEO, like out there in the audience, this might not be the perfect thing for you to start off with. But if you know a bit of SEO, like you want to dive into this is a great strategy. So tell us a bit about the landscape of buying these domains.
Well, right now it's not super easy. Like everything that's successful, it's sort of caught on in the mainstream and now it's very expensive. So the DR65 site I was telling you about, I picked that up for like $3,000 or $4,000 in 2019, and that would definitely cost maybe 10K if you're lucky, maybe 15 to 20 if it really, was an auction that people were looking at. And it would have been, because this was like a very general site, so you can kind of do whatever you want with it.
Hmm.
So if you're thinking of getting into this, probably the best thing to do is stay away from the auctions, because anything worth buying is going to be expensive. And if you can find some private deals in some like Facebook marketplaces, or do like your friend was doing, where you reach out to sites that are kind of abandoned and see if you can acquire those, or even a place like Otis that has a huge inventory of names, you have to sort through them to find one that's like a real gem. But that's probably your best bet these days.
Yeah, Otis is not cheap. I actually have a account. The owner and I, we briefly talked, and we're both friends with Craig Campbell, so I got an account to check it out. And yeah, I mean, some of those domains are pretty nice, but I mean, you're looking at domains ranging anywhere between $2,000 to, I think I saw some for like 20 grand. So not
Mm-hmm.
exactly like bargain prices on Otis.
Yeah. And just for transparency, I sold actually a marketplace I started for abandoned content sites, essentially. I sold it to them, and I do some consulting with the people that are looking at buying a name there. And I write a monthly column. So just so everybody knows what the situation is with that,
So
with
you're
Otis.
completely unbiased when you're recommending Otis.
Yeah, completely. I mean,
Cool. Well, we got this
I'm
on
like
video
a,
and audio, so now I can take you out of context forever on Twitter.
I'm okay with that, honestly. Like,
Hey,
you
it'll
know,
help the podcast. Start some
yeah,
controversy, right?
yeah.
No, I think Otis is a cool service actually, but the domains aren't cheap. If someone out there is
They are
looking to
not
buy the
cheap.
bargain based on price, but I saw some of them that were quite good. And one of the things I liked about Otis, and this is unbiased feedback from me. So I've seen other expired domain sites are like the ones that came before Otis, and there's a few that pop up here and there. Every now and then I give them a look just out of curiosity, and like God, the UI on almost all of them is absolutely atrocious. It's so hard to find anything in like even just sorting through the domains, much less the domains themselves. There's a lot of garbage on a lot
Hmm.
of the other ones, but Otis did seem like very much a cut above the others. So it is a place I do recommend. I've never used them myself, but from what I've seen, is a cool, very cool like niche marketplace for this.
Yeah, they do have a robust screening process. I'll say that. So
Yeah,
there's less garbage there than on maybe some other marketplaces.
for sure, for sure. So tell us how someone could take one of these expired domains. So they buy it, they own it now. They went through Otis or GoDaddy or whatever. What is their next steps for success with this?
A lot of people like to just grab all the content from archive. I don't recommend that, especially if you paid a lot of money for a domain. You should hit it with some really fresh, good content, not the content that was there before. The one thing that I do recommend that I don't think a lot of people do, and I'll go back one step and say the first thing you should do is build out a site. You should not just 301 it directly. But I've already said that. Yeah, go into a tool. I use Ahrefs. Probably other tools can do the same thing, but look at the best URLs by links, essentially. So like the about page maybe had 5 links, but this like climate report had 20 links going to it, like referring domains. So find the best pages and do something with them. Like don't just let that 404. The best case scenario is building a similar piece of content on that, or something that's like halfway related. Like if you're starting a solar site but there's a page about wind energy on the site, like just build that out and then build your solar page and link from this page to your new solar page. Like you're driving a lot of internal authority. So just don't waste the pages with the best links. I see a lot of people do that. or at
How
least
much
not even think about that.
how important is the content format in that? So, for example, let's say Empire Flippers became an expired domain tomorrow. We rank really well for things like buy Amazon FBA business, but the actual format of that page is a
Mhm.
marketplace specifically for FBA. So it's not like your traditional blog post or anything like that. So when you're buying these, does that format matter at all? Like the type of content that's on there? Like if it's a marketplace, listings, blog posts, whatever?
I don't think so, but I'll try and stick to as close as I can while making it as natural as possible. So I might talk about the marketplaces for FBA businesses. Like, here's some tips on how to do that. Here's what to look for. Here's some listings at the time of writing, so that it's kind of similar as possible, but it's like still
Mhm.
serving your purpose of what you're using it for.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's interesting to me. Okay, so you have the content up on the website. Maybe use the Wayback Machine to at least get some inspiration on what you should write about, but you're not using that
Mhm.
content exactly. What's the next step?
And then any pages that you're not building on that still have some juice, like put it to the blog, put it to the homepage, put it somewhere so that you're capturing that value. And then once you've done that, just start building content. Like, it's not hard. Like, just make the site good, basically. And I guess it depends on what you're going to do with it. If you're going to just build it out as its own brand, like go through the motions of like setting up social media and have a good content plan and be adding fresh content often and add some backlinks. If you are buying a site and it's not quite the niche that you want to build out, but it's close, like definitely go long on the content that you want to add to it. Like, the more of that you add, the more relevancy it gains. Add in some backlinks here and there from sites that are also in that same niche, and then you slowly turn the site into what you need it to be, as long as it's kind of close. That's the main difference between starting a site from scratch and starting a site that's 301. Like, once you get it up and going and you capture that value it used to have, like, just make a good site.
Yeah, so
Easier
once
said
you
than
have
done,
that,
but
you just basically treat it like a normal website at that point.
mhm.
What have
And
you found? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that if you're building it out to then 301 it somewhere else, then I always say build the content on that site that you want to put on your main site. And then once it indexes and once it starts ranking for long tail keywords, you say, oh, Google's algorithm likes this. It's showing some good signs. Couple months, then you can 301 all that content over. Like, build out a silo on this expired domain that you want to live on your main site. And then when you redirect that over, it comes with a lot of authority and relevancy.
What's the point of doing that in the sense of like, why not just keep with the expired domain? Is it because of the branding stuff like we talked about earlier, something like that? Or what's the usual reason you do it?
It could be maybe the brand sucks and you want to just not own that brand. It could be that you have a site you've been working on for 15 years and it has 800 pieces of content and you're just looking to grow that. And so, one way to do that is by getting this expired domain or this domain that you acquire, whatever, you build it out. And then once you redirect that over to your main site, you're going from however many links you had and you're adding like 300 links or something, or referring domains. Like, that's super powerful. And whatever silo or area or category that you're moving that to is going to become really powerful and authoritative. So it's almost a shortcut to adding a bunch of authority and relevancy to your main site in a way that is not like you can just kill that redirect if for some reason it's ever toxic or bad or whatever happens. Like, it's not something that's permanent.
That was my next question, actually. So I don't know if this is true because I've never done this, but my friends who do this, they tell me that if something happens to your main website and it's after you did one of these redirects, it's actually like maybe not easy is the right word, but relatively simple to undo it. And then your main website would just come back like normal as if nothing happened. Has that been true for your experience?
So I've only ever really messed up super badly one time, and I still don't know what happened. I had a very established, very powerful site that made like low four figures in affiliate revenue per month. I didn't think the brand was super hot, and I picked up a domain that was a really great brand and it had authority in the niche that I was working in, like the specific niche. So I was like, all right, I'll just do the opposite of what I normally do. And I'll take this established website and I'll move it over to this website I just picked up, 301 every page to every page kind of thing. And like that should work out really well. And it didn't. I lost like 90% of my traffic and it just sort of went away, and it was all indexed. It was all the way I've always done it. I don't know what happened, but I talked to several SEO experts. No one really had an idea. Like I ran it by a couple friends. And so I just switched everything back, and it came back very quickly to the way that used to be. And then it came back a little better because it was now coming from a domain that was indexed with relevancy, that had a lot of links going to it from the site I redirected to it. Now it was coming back. So it was like kind of a stupid hack that I made by messing up, but it turned out to be a pretty powerful move because it was just like shifting this authority and relevancy around. And now it was coming from a domain that had a link going to every post. So yeah, it worked fine the one time I had to do that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's interesting. The reverse engineering there. Tell me a bit about the results here. So we kind of been hinting around it throughout the interview, but like I try to keep everything in SEO as simple as possible because I think people tend to overcomplicate it. And I believe that SEO, for the most part, I'm like there's tons of caveats to what I'm about to say, but for the most part, there's like three phases of an SEO project. Like you buy the fresh domain, you're in the sandbox for a super long time usually. Then you like infant mode where you're getting some stuff happening. And then phase three is like the golden goose, is like the authority mode where you just start ranking for tons of stuff. Everything is popping off. When it comes to starting a website from scratch, if you're brand new to SEO, I usually say you get to phase two around 18 months, maybe 21 months, something like that. If you're brand new to SEO, if you know what you're doing, obviously you can get there faster. But with a domain like what you're doing, how fast have you seen results in terms of like taking kind of a website from zero to hero?
Like an expired rebuild
Yeah.
specifically, or not?
Yeah. Like in comparison to building a site from scratch that you're putting the same amount of resources into from content and backlinks versus doing the expired domain 301 strategy, what would you say is the difference between those two in terms of results, time spent, resources, all that kind of stuff?
If you have the resources to spend on all this, you can make it happen pretty quickly. In 2020, like May ish, I picked up an expired domain from GoDaddy's auctions for $7,000. It was way more than I wanted to spend, but I got caught up in the auction, and then I took it personally when it didn't go my way, and I just kept bidding and I kept
The
bidding.
heat of the
And
moment.
so yeah, so my swear to God, 3,000 is as high as I'm going turned into like 7,300 or something like that. But it was a beautiful brand and it had so much topical authority. And I was like, I have to have this stupid thing. So I got it and I just started building content on it right away. So this was in at the end of May. And then a couple months later, a friend of mine had an expired domain that he had rebuilt in the cannabis niche, and he wasn't doing much with it. So I was like, dude, I'll buy that from you. I bought it for 12,000. So now I'm almost 20,000 in just on buying domains. All the content was way more expensive. I didn't build any links. But once I acquired that second site to the first, it just really took off, and it was ranking in the top spots for like best seed bank that shipped to the US, that kind of stuff, which was crazy lucrative. That site was earning about 10 to 15,000 by September a month. And then I
Nice.
sold it in December for lowish six figures. And so
That's
that's
awesome.
the speed at which that can happen. But you can't just walk in as your first site and do that because the capital required was a lot. And then knowing what to do with like the site you're acquiring, how to bring that in and make it really impactful was also not something a beginner deals with. So that was like my best effort. Like that went really quickly and really well. Around, I guess a little earlier, I started a site also aimed at cannabis seeds, also, but it was targeting Australia. So it was a .com.au. And even though the market is way less hot there, like there's not as much competition, that thing took like 18 months to start ranking for anything. It was very frustrating. I built links, built good content. I had a lot of, I had a lot of connections in the cannabis space, so I could really like get some good links going, but it did not rank for forever. So that was a great example to me of the differences between the two strategies.
So there's definitely people who are listening to this who probably do have the resources to do what you're doing, right? A lot of these people are looking at buying businesses from our marketplace. Some of them are seven-figure businesses, right? In terms of the strategy to going to get these domains, do you have like any tips or tricks that you've learned over the years buying these from, say, an auction? Like, do you have certain rules, guidelines, anything like that?
I mean, as far as like which ones to buy, or like literally how to run the auction so that you have a better chance of winning, for instance.
That one. Yeah. So you already have the
Okay.
criteria, you mapped it out. Is there any particular strategy other than just bid more? Like, is there anything you do?
I mean, the best piece of advice I can give you now, the way things are, is like you have to really want that domain. You have to be stupid, like I was.
You would have
Like
spent $7,000 when your budget is 3 grand.
yes, and that's the truth, though. Like if you watch
Yeah.
these auctions, they go on forever. So you have to be all in order to win these names. But barring that, I mean, just knowing how the auctions work can be helpful. A lot of people think it's like eBay in the 90s and you can just like snipe in there with 20 seconds to go and place a bid and win it. But the auction houses they want money. So they're like, oh, we'll kick it back 6 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes. So every time you do that, it extends the auction by 5 or 6 minutes. So there is no sniping. And kind of the best way to play it, even though it never works this way now, is like place a big, nice bid with like 6 minutes to go so it doesn't set it back and just hope that it's enough. And a lot of times people run into bidders who wait like 20 seconds left and then place a bid that's like $5 or $10 above what it is, and it just kicks it back to 6 minutes, so the auction drags out for 2 hours. But you're probably bidding against some bots because GoDaddy has an API that some of
Right.
these big places like huge domains take advantage of, and so they have a number and they'll just bid $5 at a time until they hit that number or they win the domain.
Yep.
So you like clear your schedule and just commit to getting a name, and that's how you're going to get it these days. It's definitely different than when I was even in 2020 trying to win these names.
Yeah, I believe it. It's been interesting. I think you and I got started in SEO in a similar time, though you probably had a lot more time dedicated to it than I did back in 2011 because I was still on an oil rig. But it's been wild to watch the whole expired domain stuff grow over the years and change. It's a fascinating strategy in general. But in terms of like as we move to wrap up this podcast, you have another thing which I'm assuming is not a expired domain. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you have the newsletter Rank Theory. So tell me a bit about
Mm.
Rank Theory.
So it actually started as an expired domain
Oh, I
newsletter.
was wrong.
um, Back before it was Rank Theory, I just was built on a Substack account, and I've been weirdly obsessed with expired domains for a lot longer than people have even been paying attention at this point. And I just started writing like, here's the 5 domains expiring this week that are worth buying, and here's why they're worth buying. So that's how I started building a list. And then it evolved over time to just more of like a general SEO newsletter. And so now it's like, here's the stupid things that Sean's obsessed with, and he wrote 2,000 words about them. And yeah, that's what it is these days. Like, if I find a site or that's worth exploring to see how they're doing this, or lately it's been like kind of jumping into AI and seeing how that is possibly going to shape SEO for the next couple years. Like, yeah, that's what I'm writing about these days, and that's how it started.
Is it like a weekly newsletter you're sending out, or what kind of format are you doing?
It's sort of like whenever I publish it.
What's
Terrible,
the
terrible
bloom
marketing strategy. Don't recommend it. I was reading an interview and with someone else, somebody was interviewing one of my readers, and they're like, what are some of your resources? And they're like, oh, I really love Sean's newsletter. He seems to publish it whenever the hell he feels like it, though. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. So it comes out sort of 2 times a month. There's a free version and a paid version. paid version gets some of a little extra, and some of the domains are redacted for the free version because I'm not trying to put anyone on blast,
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so
Uh,
2-ish times a month it comes out.
It's like a supreme drop. You never quite know when the next one's happening.
Yeah, but with a
Makes you want it
terrible
more.
resale
It's a
value.
brilliant marketing strategy.
Yeah, yeah.
Excellent. So you've been running Ring Theory for how long?
I started the newsletter in 2019, but I switched everything over to Rank Theory maybe a year or two ago. I
Hmm,
actually saw that name expiring at auction, and I was like, "That's a good SEO brand."
perfect.
So I grabbed it. Yeah,
Did it have
yeah.
topical
So I
relevance to SEO? Was it actually
nah,
about SEO back in the day?
I think it was about sports ranking, maybe. I
Very
don't know.
similar.
It
Almost
didn't have
exactly
any
the same.
real links. Yeah, so there wasn't a lot to go on.
But it is a cool name. Then we finished the podcast kind of an interesting mirroring of how we began talking about cool brand names. When I was 18, one of my very first affiliate websites was dungeonsanddragonsbooks.com. Little did I know about all the legal trouble I might get into if that was actually
Yeah,
successful. But I was like, yeah, this is a perfect brand. Nothing bad could come of this. Luckily, it
classic
wasn't
beginner's
successful
mindset.
because I didn't know what I was
Yeah,
doing. So I never had to deal with the legal trouble.
it's funny.
Uh, so let's wrap up with one final question. Well, not one final question, but one question to wrap up everything we're talking about here. And then I want to move into the rapid fire section with you. So, out of all of your experiments you've done with expired domains, 301, all that kind of stuff, what has been your most surprising outcome from doing all these?
Probably ranking for best CBD oil was pretty surprising. I didn't really know what I was doing. And I've mentioned like I've stumbled into most of the things that I've done. And I definitely stumbled into that. I just was trying to make like a cannabis news blog. And I saw someone that actually I knew had the kind of a CBD oil site. And I was like, oh, I'll write a best CBD oil article. And then like 2 or 3 months later, it's ranking first and making 4 figures a day in an affiliate income. So that was pretty surprising. I guess the other surprising thing is just how I kind of fell into this subsection of SEO expertise, being this expired domain guy or whatever. That's been a great way to have found clients and to have like built up a reputation in the industry.
Yeah,
Also
for
pretty
sure.
surprising. I guess I don't do a lot of stuff on purpose. So it's all kind of surprising.
It's all part of your supreme like business strategy. So it all
Yeah,
fits in together. It's all part of a rank theory, if you will.
that's
Let me
right.
know if you want to pay me a consulting fee for that, Sean.
Okay. I'll sleep on it.
Well, awesome, man. We're at the end of the interview, but before we finish, I do want to ask you these rapid fire questions. It's 3 questions. Answer them with just first thing that comes to your mind. Are you ready?
Yeah, I saw that you sent these over, but I didn't really prepare anything, so it'll be truly off the top of my head.
You prepare for podcasts just like me. This is perfect. This is true rapid fire here. I
Okay.
don't think most people actually read these questions because the final one usually always surprises people. But we send it as a courtesy, right? Okay,
Yeah.
first question. What are the best hidden growth opportunities when it comes to SEO today?
In my opinion, and I don't know how hidden this is because a lot of people are maybe doing it, but not talking about it too much. And that is take an expired domain of any value or any authority and just hit it with as much content as possible within a niche. Hopefully, the niche that the site used to be, or at least similar. And man, I've seen like DR5 sites with 200,000 organic traffic
Wow.
numbers in Ahrefs within a couple months. I mean, it's probably AI content, and most of them do get blasted eventually, but like, how much money are you making before that? The way that people used to set up maybe PBNs in the past or these like churn and burn sites, like, I think it's easier than ever to do that kind of stuff. And I don't feel great about recommending like, oh, just flood the internet with garbage and you'll make
Spam
money.
your
But
way to the
pe-
top.
yeah, but it works. It
It
works.
does.
And
It does.
people are doing that. And, if you can find a site that's valuable and hit it with a ton of AI content, or if you're just a really fast writer, a bunch of regular content, I think there's some huge opportunities there.
I 100% agree with you. I have a friend, he's killing it right now using AI content, and I believe expired domains. I'd be very surprised if he's not using an expired domain or what he's doing. So, what tools or resources can people use to go and find these expired domains or analyze them?
There's two that come to mind. There's one called spamzilla.io, and that's like the cheaper, more affordable option. A lot of people use that. I don't use that because I use another tool called DOMCOP, DOM COP, and that's a much more robust tool. It's a lot. It's a steeper learning curve, but it's really powerful. And I've been using that since like 2016 to find good domains and domains with SEO. Yeah, it's a great tool. They're both paid. Or you can use expireddomains.net, but it's just not as powerful. So it doesn't give you as much information, but it's free.
Yeah. Man, Domcob. I haven't heard that name in a while, in a hot minute. It's cool to see that they're still kicking around.
Yeah, it's a great tool.
OG. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, my final question for you. What has been your funniest moment working in SEO?
I did think a little bit about this one actually,
Oh, so you did
because
read these. Look at this, man.
I,
I
I
might have
read them, but I
content on
didn't
here
give it any
again.
more thought except for this one. Like funny, I don't know. The only thing that really came to mind is I started. So I've got a Twitter post that says day one of quarantine, I built flattenthecurve.com, and I took that to like got a million hits in 2 weeks on that one. Crazy story. That one it's on Rank Theory if you go to the blog. And then like day 37 of quarantine, I built a site called howtostartabog.com. And when I shared it on Twitter, I had a lot of confused people because they thought it was blog, because that's what your brain sees. It's what
Right.
you're kind of primed to see if you're in the space. But it's just a really crappy, low quality, kind of shit posty how to like make your own bog. And so that was a lot of fun. And actually, at some point, some Facebook group, like some eco Facebook group with like 300,000 members, someone found that and shared it, and it got like ton of visits. And they were pretty amused being in the, it's a bunch of scientists and whatever. So I guess that's the one that came to mind. And that site's still live. Everyone should go check it out. It's really stupid.
That's awesome. I love it. The funny shenanigans people can do when they know a little bit of SEO is quite dangerous and also hilarious. I love it. Well, cool, man. This was awesome talking about expired domains. It's not something I get to talk about all the time, getting into some of the more technical weeds here. If someone wanted to follow you and join Rank Theory, what's the best way for them to interact with you? Like via email, social, just join over your newsletter? Where can people find you?
Yeah, I'd say join the newsletter, ranktheory.com. There's a big sign up box. Can't miss it. That's where I send a couple newsletters a month, and you can just hit reply on anything and very chatty. I'm also on Twitter, sort of, at Sean Markey, SeanMarkey. I'm also not consistent in my tweeting, and, I don't
It
do
sounds
the
like a
whole like,
consistent theme.
yeah, definitely. But I'm there. Like, if you DM me, I'll see it. But, you know, if you really want to hear from me, join my newsletter. I'll appreciate that a lot more.
Awesome, man. The inconsistency, I feel you on that. I remember being at a mastermind with all these high performing entrepreneurs with six packs. Was in like Thailand, like I have a little bit of a beer belly and everything. They're telling me about their morning routine. I wake up at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. Like, when do you wake up, Greg? Like, I wake up at 2 p.m. I got calls like 5 a.m. I live in Asia, man. It's like, what? Like, what was your routine? Like, man, I don't have a routine. I'm just an agent of chaos. I'm like the Joker, like a good version of the Joker.
Like the
So
Joker who
I
eats a
feel
lot
you.
of pizza and stays
Yeah,
up too
I'm the
late.
Joker that's ordering McDonald's at like 2 a.m. And the guy's like, man, that guy's a Joker. Awesome, Sean. Well, we'll leave all the links in the show description down below for anyone who wants to check out Rank Theory or wants to connect with Sean. But Sean, thanks so much for being on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun.
There you have it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it got you inspired at all the different things that are happening in this industry. And of course, if you just want to buy a highly profitable business, you can always go to empireflippers.com/marketplace. Or maybe you want to make an exit of your highly profitable business, and you could go to empireflippers.com/sell your site. I've been your host, Greg. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you leave a review, give us a like, a follow, share it across social media. Talk to you all soon. See you on the next episode.